It's great to feel you, even though we can't see each other, just to feel you assembling here for this call, and all of us coming with our questions and our curiosity and maybe our longings about the soul's path. And I just wanted to welcome that, and that we can feel ourselves as a community gathering inside that energy too. And that, to share with you also what Digo mentioned, the Mystic Cafe, for those of you who don't know about that already, it's Thomas's membership community and program where we explore these kinds of questions a lot. We have monthly calls, and we have member gathering calls where we get to practice together with the teachings. And it's a place, I have memories of being in the original Mystic Cafe, which arose in a little kitchenette in a retreat center with some participants who realized Thomas got coffee very early in the morning. And so these questions started coming, people's questions that, you think about these questions we've held since we were children, sometimes curiosities about the mystical path, about the soul. And here was this place in the early morning where people packed into a little kitchenette to ask these questions, and Thomas would just respond and stream the answers before our morning meditation. And now it's grown into this worldwide community where we meet online, but there's that same kind of freshness and aliveness and emergence of this school that we didn't have, most of us, when we were young, that we get to ask these questions and learn together and be inspired and sparked in our interest in this way. And that's also a place where you can deepen this kind of exploration we're going to be doing today. And also that we'll continue this topic about illuminating your soul's path in a 10-day challenge in the Mystic Cafe this month. So we'll dive deeper there. But now we just want to drop in here to today's topic, illuminating your soul's path. Thomas is going to address some of the questions that came in, and then he'll lead us in a guided meditation so we can also anchor in a really embodied exploration. This is an embodied exploration of our path, our spiritual calling, our soul's calling. And so we just invite you into this, like, really kind of listening and allowing the teaching to inspire you as it does, and to spark something for you. And maybe what you already have is a deep knowing inside. And so just welcoming you with your intelligence and your questions, and we'll see how these answers open further curiosity for the path. And Thomas, I'd love to welcome you now. And a lot of people have asked even what you mean by the soul's path. Like, is it the same as spiritual calling? What exactly is it? How do we know what that path is? If you could start with that, and welcome.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome everybody. Yeah, that's a good question. I think for many of us, our soul's path is a walking question. And what I mean by that is, it's not a question that we immediately answer. It's a question that we devote our life to. It's something that I let that question kind of walk me. And because it's so easy to take philosophical terms like the soul or the divine or other aspects as kind of philosophical terms that we use, but it stays a little bit abstract. And in the spiritual or mystical practice, we are looking, okay, what allows us to have kind of a reference experience of the soul. So when we talk about the soul, which is often used in different ways, what is the soul? It's kind of, not everybody uses it in the same way, this word. But in my understanding, the soul is a movement, versus thinking of the soul as, I don't know, something. The soul is movement. And so in our life, we identify movement in the places, like I think many of us know states when things are simply flowing. When we have flow states, and sometimes we don't even know why suddenly things start flowing, and why other times things feel more stuck. And so many people have the question, okay, and also that question, you many of you listening now wrote those question, like similar questions, and one of them was like, why don't I know my soul's path, and how can I discern that what I really feel comes from my soul or comes from some other place or just my thinking. And of course, we will a bit later kind of contemplate that together, go into like a short meditation together to get a little bit of a sense. But one component is, where is it flowing in my life? And how does flow feel? And then immediately flow contrasts kind of the reduction of flow, which feels more like stagnation, more like holding, more like confusion or not knowing. And sometimes we have moments when things become very clear. And sometimes we have moments when things are a bit more cloudy. And so there is that tendency to say, okay, the one is my soul's path, and the other one is kind of what I need to get rid of to be more on my path. And I would say, no. I would say, how can we create, by strengthening that part of us that knows? And how do we know? One way how we know is when we ask ourselves, why are we here? Why did you come here? Like just to this call. Or why do you, if you have a spiritual practice, why do you practice? Why do you meditate? Why do you do yoga? Why do you do other things? Why do you go to therapy? Why do you do inner work in all kinds of ways? What's the part of you that is looking for something? And so I often say, in that place that's calling us, there's a place that's calling us. And in that place that's calling us, even now, when we speak about it and you look at, okay, what's the place where I feel a yearning? Maybe I don't feel it all the time, but sometimes. What's the place when I hear something that refers to a bigger context, refers to the divine? There's a sacred moment, there's a moment of awe, there's a moment of strong coherence that brings tears to our eyes. What's that moment when somebody says something and it touches you and you recognize something? You say, yes, that's true. What's the place that knows something? And if the something is not a concrete something, I know that it's this or that or whatever, but there is a deeper knowing that sometimes can't be even pinpointed. But I know, I feel an urge to be on a path. And so if all of us that feel that, take a moment to just feel that and consciously feel that and say, yes, there's a place that is calling me or pulling me. Like there's something that motivates me to look deeper, to look for deeper answers than the ones that I found until now. I want to go to the heart of things versus stay on the surface. That is interested in deep connections versus superficial connections. There's something that wants depth. And maybe we can take a moment to just feel the place that wants that. The place where we feel a kind of an inner calling, and that keeps us going. And for many people, once we're on the path, it's even hard to stop it. Because imagine you just forget about it. You forget about your inner work, you forget about your calling, you forget about the divine, however you call it, your awakening process or more consciousness in your life. It's from a certain moment on our path, we can't even imagine not being on the path. And that place inside that keeps on walking, moving, calling. I like to connect to that a bit. And that place is not just located in our thinking, oh, it's great, I read 5 scientific studies why meditation is good or why being on the path is good. That might be also part of it, but it's something deeper than that. It's something that we feel in a much deeper place. And the more we walk the path, it might be that the fuel of reference experiences, community, meaningful relations, being seen in our being, fuels that healing. When we heal something, I feel, yeah, I'm becoming more whole. I develop capacities to be more present in my life, to include more of life, to be able to respond to more and more situations in my life. I notice the capacity to exclude less, to other less, to be more compassionate, to become a contemporary witness of our world. I notice my capacity to love grows, my pathologizing of myself and other people decreases. I can see more intelligence. I can see the intelligence that seems obvious, and I can see more and more the intelligence that doesn't seem so obvious because it feels like defense, separation, stagnation, not knowing. It feels like these are the parts that I actually try to get rid of. Without all of that stuff, my life would be much better. And eventually, our soul teaches us, of course, to strengthen what we call light, like to strengthen the conscious awareness. Because what is light? Light is either in the embodied form, light is conscious awareness of my body, of you, of the world. So it's the conscious experience of reality. But potential light is the light that we are becoming. That's the light that's downpouring moment to moment to moment. And it's that potentiality is not manifest yet. This appears in us as insights, as creativity, as deep values, deep motivation, as the things that are essential for us. So, and sometimes our deeper insights, we cannot just grasp them. I want another insight. I want another innovation. It comes when we are either in the inner state or we create an inner state. When we walk in nature, when we meditate, when we are creative, when we are writing, when we are drawing, when we have conversations, we download together more insight. I think many of us know how it feels when we have inspiring conversations and you walk away and you feel like your neurons are glowing. It feels so exciting, it feels fresh, it feels like you touch new territory, you walk away and you're inspired, and the other people or whomever you spoke to has the same. These are moments when we touch our souls. This is a moment when we feel, oh yeah, I feel the presence of the higher light, the higher soul. Because mystically seen, the soul is a subtle movement or a subtle entity. It's like something that I can't just grasp. I need to learn to feel. And that's why often I say the soul talks to us as a whisper. The soul whispers. But sometimes the world's noisy. So when we are too engaged in the noisy world and our minds and our kind of reactivity and our inner world is also part of that noisy world, then we don't hear the subtle whisper of our higher guidance. That's why many mystics learn to create an inner environment where I become more still. Once in the Himalayan mountains, in a group, a prayer came to me, and it starts with the lines, "In the silence of my heart, I am." So there's being. When I learn to quieten my inner world, I touch being, which starts with space, spaciousness, then deeper stillness. And in the stillness of my heart, I hear thy name. I hear like that deeper whisper that becomes like my soul's guidance. And so we want, on the one hand, we want to strengthen that through our spiritual practice, to listen more to that which whispers, which means it's more subtle. That information is potentiality, it's potential. It's not yet manifest in our bodies, in our world. It's the world to come. It's what I call the future. It's higher consciousness, not tomorrow. And so when I live a life where I develop an interior state that can, while I'm living my life, also listens to that subtleties. So that's one way to listen to our soul's guidance. And the other way, there are two more things, and then I would love us to engage a bit in a short meditation, and then we will bring some more questions that we prepared from all the questions you sent in. And so the other part is that when I ask myself, and that's what we're gonna do afterwards, like, what motivates me deeply? So what's deep motivation? What's really driving my life? What's driving me? There are more superficial motivations that are also lovely and they are great. But when I ask myself, what motivates my life deeply? Or what's essential? Like, when do I call my life essential? What are moments in my life that I would call essential? Or when am I really creative? Where do I feel most alive, creative, engaged? And what do I consider being high values? So what motivates me deeply? Where do I feel really engaged and creative? What's essential in my life? And which values do I really see as the deep values in my life? Even if I take these 4 questions, and maybe you can do it after the call or whenever you have time, you can sit down and take a journal and start, like, just write, let it flow. Whatever comes to you when you, or speak to somebody. Maybe some people listen to this together, or you have friends or partners that you want to speak about these questions, and just see what, and when you allow yourself to just share whatever comes in you, whatever shows up. And the third part about our soul's path is that in many traditions over thousands of years, humanity is talking about the light and the dark, about the parts that feel illuminated and full of virtue and full of kind of light, the bright side of us, and then the dark part of life, and the unconscious part of life, the part of life where motivation arises that seems to be out of context. And I believe on a true spiritual path, we learn to less and less split ourselves, but more and more be curious and explore. And that I want to listen to myself, to others, to processes in our society, in our world right now. There's so much polarization going on, but on the level of our soul, we want to actually listen deeper. We want to understand, and not only intellectually in our being, become part of what's the intelligence that drives all of that. What's the intelligence behind my own stagnations, tensions in my body, like all kinds of, when I feel absent, when I feel confused. It's so easy to say that's not from my soul, and my soul is something else. And it's true, our bodies are concentrated human history, not only human history, history of life. Like our bodies are millions of years old. And so there is what informs us that comes through all our ancestors. Or sometimes you could even say the information that comes from Mother Earth, that we arise out of. And then there is the information of the creative spark of our higher consciousness, and they make love, they meet. There's eros, and there is every generation contributing something that becomes the soil for the next generation. And the next generation becomes the soil for the next generation. So we all have been born into this life through the drive of our soul, the movement, to contribute something that becomes the soil for the next generation. And when we look back and we see our ancestors, we see all their souls, all their light is kind of a tremendous lineage. All our ancestors that made it so that we can sit here today, there is light flowing. It's an unbroken lineage of light. Soul after soul after soul after soul after soul after soul. It's amazing. And all of that is pulsing in us. All of that is alive here, right now. So the third aspect is also that because of that history in us, of course, comes with trauma, comes with wounds, comes with unconscious spots and absences. But that's also our soul's journey. The way how we relate to the circumstances that we were born in, that our soul actually connected to our family, our DNA, our ancestors, the time that we got born, this age and this time on the planet. All of that is information, is in formation. It forms us. It's in formation. Right? The soul is also in form, creates a form. And so the more we are curious, our soul is curious about this life. So our soul is basically kind of motivating us to live our creative potential and live more and more the intelligence that we bring into this life. And it's also motivating us to say, yes, all the healing is not a problem that we need to solve to get to our life purpose, but all our healing is also our life purpose. Everything that comes, all the stuff in my life is not blocking my way. It is my way. Even if it sometimes seems very dark or difficult or painful, yes, and it still is my way. And I don't need to walk this way alone. I have higher resources, I have horizontal, like relational resources, I have ancestral resources. There's a lot of support, but the love for life, like the love for life in 360-degree spectrum, that's I think, what is the path of our soul. Not just trying to be in the bright side of it, but more and more embodying the bright side of our life in the places where we sometimes struggle to embody light or consciousness or presence or awareness. So I wanted to speak to on the one hand, how we strengthen. We will have a meditation now together where we can feel into this a bit deeper. Also to trust that in the calling we already know something. The calling is the echo of the arrival. The spiritual calling is the echo of the arrival. In the calling, we know something. And the something is not a concrete something. The something is we know that we are on the path. We know we are walking, and something is guiding us already just by the fact that we are together. Just by the fact that we came together here, there must be a motivation, otherwise we wouldn't spend the time to be here. And what is motivated knows something. And so sometimes when I feel a bit lost, I go back to the place where I feel my calling. I know I want to be on the path. And even if sometimes we don't know where to go or how it works, you reconnect to that place. And maybe we start with that place now, so where you feel called, and many of us are on a path of inner development already for many years. Maybe some of us just recently, but it doesn't really matter because something motivates us. Maybe if you want, you can take a deeper breath and connect to your body first. And kind of with a few cycles of breathing, especially exhaling, you can connect a bit deeper to your body sensations. Feel also how your body is, at least in some areas, energized. There's aliveness. Maybe there's some streaming, pulsing. And once you feel anchored or grounded in your physical body and in the aliveness of your body, there you feel like millions of years of living culminating into this moment you experience. All your ancestors contribute to this experience. And then, for many of us, it's a sensation that we often feel also in the heart. You connect to the place where you feel called, where you love your path, even if it's not always easy, where you know you want to continue, where you feel interest in depth, more mystical explorations, healing, deeper answers. Deeper realizations, where that matters. And it's also a place where you notice moments of awe, where you notice when something rings true. And you feel, yes, you notice deeper truth. It resonates. I sometimes have tears when there's a sense of sacredness. There's a sense of depth and true presence. And that place is a very open membrane to your soul and your soul's intelligence. And within that place you can tune in with what's essential in my life, what's deeply meaningful. Maybe when you think about or tune in with essential moments in your life, or moments when you felt deeply seen by someone, deeply supported, when somebody stood by your side because you really needed this and somebody was there. Or you resolved something and life started to move, sometimes in a new direction. Essential moments where we touch movement, change. And also what motivates your life deeply. What are you deeply passionate about? And where in your life do you really become very alive and energized and creative? So what's the part of your life that really, where you touch your inmost creativity? How does that feel? Or when you meet people and you have very inspiring conversations, how does that feel? And finally, what are the core values? What are values in life that you really honor, respect, try to embody? What are meaningful values that inspire your becoming, your growth, your maturation as a human being, and that inspire your wisdom, like how you become wiser throughout your life? And then once more to feel how all of that feels in your body, how you feel right now when you explore that. It's not just a mental exploration, it's a sensing. Whereas in our core we can feel all of that. Through our body we can feel the river in our core. Then you can also, before we come back, you can look at, okay, who are the people that you share this with in your life? Who are the people, what's the community, who are the close people that you feel you nourish, the part that deeply nourishes your life? With whom do you share that depth, that exploration, with whom do you share becoming wiser? But of course, that's part of your own inner essence, but it's also a relational essence. And for many of us, we nourish that part through meaningful relationships or shared experiences. And our souls resonate with each other. We are walking together. And then you can take a deeper breath, or a couple of deeper breaths. And slowly come back and maybe after the session or whenever you feel like or have time, maybe you can come back to some of the questions and as I said, journal or share with somebody so that there's a kind of a flow through conversation or writing, and you can deepen your own exploration like that, because when we write, sometimes new things show up and or when we share with each other. So that's a great application also. So Anna, maybe we want to transition to address some of the questions that came in.
Yes. Good? Yeah. Thank you so much, Thomas. It's beautiful just to have that transmission of how to feel in ourselves that subtle place of listening and to that walking practice of cultivating that. Mm. So thank you so much. Also appreciating you've been answering some of the questions in your speaking anyway. So we just so we'll answer a question or two here, and then also bring in a little bit of the mystical principles we'll be exploring in the 10-day challenge as well. But first, this question has come in a lot of different ways. About like, how do I balance my soul's calling with the need to pay the bills, take care of my family, when I feel like I can't give up my financial responsibilities to follow that calling? And sometimes it really feels like a split. There's a lot coming in about how to be with that. If you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, for many of us, the soul's calling is not going immediately to the cave. but the soul's calling starts to unfold in the life that we are living. And that's what I meant before. It's like, how can I, it's almost like a bit like how can I make a sacrifice? A sacrifice is not just sacrifice how we maybe heard it in the past in stories, but a sacrifice is a mystical sacrifice is we are making space for something new to emerge. And the question is, how can I bring in the life that I'm living at the moment? If I don't have an absolute clear calling that, I don't know, I need to go to a retreat and stay there. So, but that's for most of the people not the point. The point is that we want to bring in more of our soul's inspiration and of our kind of deeper aspects into our life. And that's a path. That's not like today I start and tomorrow I need to be there. That's how our mind thinks about it. But it happens basically every moment of my life. There is nothing, seen from the mystical dimension, there is nothing not spiritual. There's nothing non-mystical. There's all parts of my life. Some parts are very practical. Some parts include how I earn money, how I am in my family, how I am in my job, how I'm with my intimate partner, how am I a citizen in this society? And many things in this society might be difficult for me. But that's the path. That's not blocking the path. That's what I was saying before. Sometimes when we start to walk our path, we actually have many ideas how it should look like. But when we walk a little longer, we see everything that's in my life is part of my path. And of course, over time, the more I listen to my core, maybe I will make new decisions. And it's like slowly changing the course. Some people go through crisis and it's an instant course correction that was overdue already for a long time. So once we run into a crisis, often we didn't listen to the subtle whisper inside, that maybe for a longer time I woke up in the morning and I felt this is not anymore fully right in my life, either my job or the way I'm living or some parts of my life need to be changed. And maybe I don't listen to this for a longer time not because I'm not adequate or I can't do it, because there are other things that need to be explored. Maybe I'm too scared to listen to this. Maybe whenever my soul's calling comes up, fear comes up. And then I try to suppress it and I put even more pressure on myself that I'm not following my soul's calling, instead of, okay, I'm getting scared. That's okay. And I will give the attention that it needs to my fear to slowly transform that fear into more groundedness, into more curiosity, into more fluidity and flexibility in my life to follow it. So not only I'm missing to follow my soul's calling, that's not the story. That impulse shows me something in my own past or my ancestors' past or my collective past that I didn't look at yet. And it's not just delaying my life, this is my life. And that's how we embody more our life, our light in our life. And that also brings that we let go sometimes of the ideas, how we create a dichotomy between the awake life and then the practical life. No, I want to bring the wakefulness into my practical life. And when I do enough inner work, things loosen up. More new possibilities come into our life through the law of attraction. So when energetically we grow inside, also new things will meet us. And so it's not just like with force, how can I break free in my life and just do what my soul wants? That's sometimes too radical and not inclusive of the parts of us that need to develop. And often that's a way not to engage with the deeper parts of ourselves that actually need attention. And in this light and dark story, I don't want to deal with the unconscious parts of myself. I just want to be in the light. And that perpetuates the same abandonment, the same inner abandonment that I'm struggling with in the first place. So including and taking with us, including and taking with us. And so that's like the embodied spiritual path seems sometimes challenging. And the challenging part is growing our wisdom. Because wisdom is how much of the world I can include in the way I live. And then I find out there are many parts that are actually not included in the way I live. And sometimes also another kind of belief system is that my soul's path is my thing. I need to manage that. And then I see, oh wow, actually my life purpose or my soul's path is a deeply relational thing with the world. Because without the world, my own soul's path as a separate thing doesn't exist. So allowing it to be a relational and a worldly path, I think, is very important. And then life shows us anyway every day the things that we need to look at. And when we really look at them, so we grow, we become more mature, more relational, more compassionate. We expand the radius of our impact and agency in life. And that's how our soul path grows. And including our financial commitments.
Beautiful answer, Thomas. There's a deep resonance there as we face those challenges that seem like a split. The split can slowly dissolve so that we're in our embodied daily life with that soul listening and embodiment. So it's beautiful. Thank you. And yes, we also, before we run out of time, we promised to talk more directly about the mystical principles. And that we're going to be also looking at that in our 10-day challenge in the Mystic Cafe. And just to honor and thank you all for the generosity of your questions. They're really beautiful and enlivening this space, your questions. And many of you also asked questions about, how do I do this? Feeling kind of alone on the path, like others aren't in these questions with them. So just to say also that the Mystic Cafe is truly a place where we come together and we actually have the opportunity there to meet each other and to practice together in very beautiful and deep ways as well. So just honoring those of you that asked that question too. So Thomas, would you speak just briefly to your understanding of these mystical principles and some of what will be coming in the 10-day challenge we'll be doing in the Mystic Cafe this month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful because we periodically come up with a challenge, which a challenge is like a phase of intensified practice together, where we look, for example, now we look at mystical principles. I often say the mystical principles are like very universal principles. It's like the tunes in music. So, and then you can listen to pop music, to classical music, to rock music, to jazz, but tunes are tunes. So the composition of different aspects of our lives, whatever how we live, and if I do this or that, or whatever I do in my life, but the composition is tunes. It's the basic building blocks. And so in this upcoming challenge in February, we want to look at different mystical principles and how they apply in our daily life. So every day we're going to look at a different principle. There's a guidance, there's a video guidance, and then there's a day where we pay attention to that and see how it actually appears in ourselves, but also in the world around us. And we start noticing, like as if I ask you, notice today the C or a D or an E as a tune. So we notice certain principles in ourselves, in others, in the world. And then like this, we study and we see how more universal principles are underlying our daily experience. And so in the spiritual practice, we, on the one hand, develop like inner states. Those inner states allow us to participate in certain aspects of reality that when it's too noisy or too dispersed in us, so then it's hard to connect to that part of life. Then it looks like it's hidden. That's why for a long time the mystical knowledge seemed like hidden, but it's not hidden because somebody vicious hid it or is hiding it. It's hidden because our inner state doesn't allow us to participate in that level of reality. So we are more on the surface of life. But the mystical practice wants to go deeper and has developed over thousands of years in different traditions, amazing practices, and many of them are actually pretty similar around the world and around different traditions. And that helps us to go deeper and then to participate, for example, in that which informs us or informs us. When we listen to somebody deeply, something in your, for example, Anna, your agency, your social agency informs me. And the deeper you land in me, I create a form of you inside. That's called intimacy or deep understanding. We feel each other much deeper, and so we experience life in a much richer informational way. And inform means also something keeps us in a form right now. What actually makes sure that we make it throughout this call in that shape that we are. Sometimes we take that for granted, but why do all our cells want to collaborate the whole time and not become a soup? And all these things, these are the things that the mystical dimension wants to explore. And I think this, like the 10-day challenge, will help us to explore this, and also in community, and have some fun with it, and become a mystical researcher in life. Yeah.
Beautiful, Thomas. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's very touching to feel the inspiration coming in, and also, how when we deepen our practice in this way, it becomes such a strength also. And when we practice in community, that there's a strong support for the challenges or the joys or whatever it is that we're going through. It's like a real powerful container for our lives in connection with that. So thank you so much. We can feel it now, as in the teaching, we can feel it in ourselves and in the community. What is alive now in this transmission that we're feeling together. It's very beautiful. Thank you so much for speaking to us about this, for calling and inviting and enlivening this community that we share, all of us together. So thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Anna.